Welcome to Star Citizen and the detailed beginners and new players guide. Because especially as a beginner or re-beginner, Star Citizen can quickly become a real challenge. Therefore, we go into all relevant areas in detail. And this is completely modular. Via the timestamps, you get to all areas that are important to you. From the account creation, via the correct game package, to the installation and the game itself. But first, an answer to the question of what Star Citizen really is and what you can expect here. Star Citizen is a sci-fi MMO where you can play together or against each other on various servers with countless players and decide your own way. You won't find any guidelines or a story campaign here. Everything is open to you and you can decide for yourself which areas is the most important for you and you would like to play. No matter if you are a law-abiding headhunter or an outlaw, you have the possibility to experience and design all game areas in various variations. And as a game field, we currently have a complete star system with countless planets, moons, space stations, ships and more. Star Citizen has been in development for several years and is still in alpha status. But that doesn't change the fact that we have a very deep and multi-layered game environment. There are dozens of different gameplay aspects and hundreds of ships on you. But let's start with the prerequisite of what you need to be able to play Star Citizen. And right here, we dispel the rumor that you need a big wallet for Star Citizen. First of all, you definitely need an account. Because even at quarterly free fly events, where you can play Star Citizen for free without a game package, you need at least access to an account. And when creating this account, you have once the opportunity to enter a referral code. Because with this code, you permanently leave your account with a fixed bonus, which is also received by the different development stages. And if you have a friend who plays Star Citizen, ask him for this code. All codes are the same. In any case, you will receive 5000 Alpha USC, so 5000 currency units in the game converted to $5. But beware, you must have entered this code once for account creation. Adding a subsequent one is not possible. We have shown you the valid code here, and in addition you will find a direct link in the video description for the account creation with code. But in order to play Star Citizen outside of a free fly event, you need a game package once. So there are no monthly costs or the like. And every game package includes the Star Citizen digital download. And this is your access to the persistent universe, the arena commander and all other modes that Star Citizen offers. So your access to the game. And at this point, the packages do not differ. The access to the game is always the same. The packages only differ in which ship is included in this package. Because even if Star Citizen gives us hundreds of different ships in different sizes and classifications, you really only need an entry-level ship to start. And of course, there is the possibility of buying a powerful Idris frigate or a Javelin destroyer for just under $2,000. Only this does not offer you a playful advantage, because the larger a ship is, the more teammates you need to operate it adequately and to be able to use it at all. Therefore, also owners of really extensive fleets and huge ships often fly with entry-level ships. Our basic recommendation is the Robert Space Industries Aurora MR package. Because the Aurora offers you an entry-level interior space next to a cockpit, space for delivery boxes, a bed to log in and out, space for 3 standard cargo units, and is definitely sufficient in the area of agility and firepower for the beginning. You definitely don't need more ship at the first time, and you can still get all ships available in the shop also in-game. So the Aurora MR definitely fits. An alternative would be the consolidated Outland Mustang Alpha starter package. In the same price range, the Mustang offers a somewhat combative look, but no walkable interior or a bed to log in and log out. But even here we can access a small cargo area. But despite a combative look, the Mustang did not offer more firepower than the Aurora. And another important note, you can upgrade each ship later and only pay the difference amount. This way you are not stuck and can still switch to other ships that is best for you later. Because an Avenger Titan is almost twice as expensive as an Aurora. For this it offers a clear plus on firepower, a little more cargo space and a larger interior area. But you can also buy ships in-game with in-game currency. For example, you can buy larger ships in-game with a cheap starter package. because ships in your hangar don't offer you any difference to ships you bought in-game, and only with one of the rare wipes, it's possible that your ships in-game bought are reset. Our last recommendation is the Consolidated Outlet Nomad. This is a multifunctional ship that has a large cargo space, and you can also load vehicles here, and you can start with a slightly larger class of ship. But our recommendation for the entry is clear, the Aurora MR, because it's the cheapest and most versatile variant, which we still fly today. But before we jump into the verse, let's go to the Robert Space Industries website via the telemetry app in the upper area first to technical requirements. Because Star Citizen also has not insignificant minimum requirements. Via the various telemetry titles, we can be shown in which performance range our system is to be expected. However, the most important tip by far, apart from graphics card, CPU or memory, is that you install Star Citizen on a fast SSD or NVMe. Because here you can feel the performance differences most clearly. Nevertheless, there is still a lot of space for fine-tuning. Therefore, we have created a 50-tip guide for you which shows all the possibilities, especially for Star Citizen. This is how to get the maximum performance. You can find the link here in the video. But another important tip in terms of your account security. After you have logged in, you go to the settings and here to security. Because Star Citizen also offers a two-factor authentication, which we definitely want to recommend to you. For example, we use the free Google Authenticator. And subsequently, we can download the launcher and the game files, which cover about 100 GB. After installing the launcher, you can enter your access data here, as well as your two-factor authentication. And after the download of the game files, you can start Star Citizen directly via Launch Game. Here, we recommend you in any case first some settings in the options menu before we start in the game directly. We find these in the lower area under options. And Star Citizen offers you a wide range of setting options and configurations. For new players or returnees, it is definitely worth activating Show Hints and Control Hints, because this is the in-game assistance system and it shows you all buttons. And under the graphics slider, we recommend the windowless mode, so borderless. The biggest influence on the performance is in the graphics settings on the Planet Volumetric Cloud slider, which you should mainly use on weaker systems on low or off. This is about clouds and fog effects, which can be enormous power eaters. And for a clear picture, I recommend the following settings in the lower area. So we set the chromatic aberration to 0 and turn off the film grain. Then you have a sharp picture and we can finally start in the verse. To do this, we select the persistent universe and have to create a character at the first start of the game. We have the choice between male and female as well as various setting options. And unlike other MMOs, we can change our character and optics at any time. Because with every new start of the game, you have the option of completely redesigning your character via the character customization button. So you don't need too much time here at the beginning. We confirm our character with accept and then have to question whether we want to play the in-game tutorial or not. If you skip the tutorial, you have the following selection of 4 starting locations. And here, your entire inventory is transferred at the start of the game to this location. The locations are all visually different and offer different paths, but the same settings and options. And the biggest difference is the location in the Stanton system. However, we definitely recommend the tutorial, which takes about 30 minutes. Here you start on New Babbage, the most current residential area. And optionally, you can also choose a server location. We recommend Best here. And with that, you have done it. Welcome to Star Citizen. You automatically wake up in an apartment in New Babbage, the capital of Microtech. And here, we start directly with the first steps. Basically, you can look around with the mouse or a controller and explore your surroundings. With a press of the Enter key, you have access to the global chat and can thus communicate with other citizens who are on the same server. In the right main area, we find the tutorial notes as well as the keys that could be of interest to us at the moment. And we see our mission goals, especially those of the tutorial, faded in at the top right. To move your character, you can use the movement keys on your keyboard or an alternative controller. And your most important tool is your MobiGlas, which you can activate and deactivate with the F1 key, among other things. Here we find various apps, including the Journal, which is a record of what we have already experienced and discovered. And if the chat and in-game communication with other players bothers you, you can simply fade it in and out with the press of the F12 key. One of the most important keys in Star Citizen is the F key. This brings you into the interaction mode. Together with the mouse wheel and the various mouse buttons, you can interact directly or indirectly with your surroundings. Interactable objects that are within your range are surrounded by blue, and you can interact directly with them. Green surrounded objects are also interactable, but still too far away. If you then click on one of the displayed options, your character also executes it. In Star Citizen, however, it often depends on details. For example, you can't drink a bottle of water if you're currently wearing a helmet. You'd have to take it off first. And of course, you don't just throw your trash on the floor. You interact with it and put it back on the sink accordingly. The F button and their interaction mode are also important not only for the first-person view, but also in ships and vehicles, whenever necessary. Another important tool is the zoom function, which goes hand in hand with their interaction mode. Because here you can zoom in on objects by pressing the F button and use the mouse wheel. And this not only helps you find your helmet, but also to read various names or signs. Because at the moment you can find a minimap on the floor in Star Citizen, but only an intergalactic star map. And as soon as we put on our helmet, we're done with the first tutorial area. But with the F button we still have access to another menu, namely the radial menu. If we hold down the F button and then at the same time click the right and left mouse buttons, we get to this menu, which, among other things, reveals your own status and offers various quick actions. So here we have access to our inventory, various emotes or actions, such as putting on and taking off our helmet. But we can also control all areas with a shortcut. For the inventory, for example, the I button. Here we find out the left our armaments and personnel inventory, and on the right the local inventory or a vehicle inventory. We also find various filter sorting functions and the Move All button, if we want to transfer an inventory completely to another. And we can move objects simply by drag and drop. But their interaction mode does not end with objects, but with different control panels, doors and all other options, how you can interact with our surroundings. But let's go to the extended character controls. Using the mentioned movement buttons on your keyboard you can move your character. And using the mouse wheel you can adjust the speed here steplessly, whereby we automatically sprint at any speed level when we press the shift key. Genre typical, we jump with the spacebar and can switch to a duck position with the left control button. And with the X button we lie on the floor and creak. And in this position we can roll with the E and Q button, that is, turn our back or belly. But Star Citizen does not only offer an ego perspective, because with the F4 key we can switch to a third-person view in 2 different levels. And in addition, the camera perspective and functions are not fixed, so we can choose the camera ourselves. But this breaks the framework of a beginner's guide definitely, which is why we refer to a dedicated guide for the camera options in Star Citizen here in the channel. And here's another tip. As soon as you hold a box or something else in your hands, you can no longer sprint, but you can choose the maximum speed via the mouse wheel. And now that we know how we move, we can leave our apartment building and drive here with a lift. Basically, Star Citizen does not find any way to pause the game or even load screens. Everything takes place physically correct. So we drive with the lift from our apartment building first into the lobby and from here to the spaceport, where we can call our ship and leave the planet. And all this without loading screens or any save points. And for this, we already need the interaction mode with the F key and the mouse. Here we simply select where we want to go with the lift. And since there is no in-game minimap in Star Citizen so far, you have to pay attention to corresponding indicators and signs. You can find them everywhere in the main planet area, which makes orientation much easier. Here too, the F key and the zoom function with the mouse wheel come into play again, as you can view everything in a slightly more detailed way. But before we go to the spaceport, we buy something for the first time. Because in the different shops and kiosks, we find everything we need for different missions. And of course, we don't leave our garbage lying around. To buy items, we can either manually select the item and buy it, or via a panel see the entire shop offer. When buying at a terminal, however, you should pay attention to which inventory you are buying. Because at the top left, you will find all available options here you can buy something. in your ship, in your equipment, or here in your local inventory on your Babbage, for example. For the first start of the game, we recommend a multi-tool and a tractor-beam attachment in any case, because with that we have a personal hand tractor-beam with us and can move various goods and items. And of course, a pistol with corresponding magazines should be not missing for self-defense. And with that, we are already equipped. Our purchased equipment we can pull into our character via the press of the I key and our inventory under the weapons area and take it with you. And of course, this also applies to our multi-tool under the utilities area as well as the tractor-beam attachment. Only the basic medical equipment is missing, which we also recommend in any case, especially for ground missions. And we find this medical equipment in the pharmacy opposite in the Brantford Medical Center, a clinic. We could also use a med pen or another attachment for a multi-tool, however the Paramed medical device is relatively inexpensive and should not be missing in any inventory. And with that, we are finally fully equipped and can choose the train directly via the metro in the direction to the spaceport. And for this, we again find various guidelines and signs that will take us to the right train. And here too, we really go back to the spaceport without a loading screen or that we are suddenly sitting in our ship. But it may be that you have to wait a few seconds for the next train. And during this short journey you can enjoy the remarkable view, depending on the weather, where you are also shown on the train how long you are still on the way. At the airport, we again look for the right way to the elevators to get to the terminals. And here, like in a real airport, we first have to go through the security checks. And here's another note. Everything you can see in Star Citizen can also be traveled. This means that you can later go exactly to the point you see on any planet or moon. But of course, we need a spaceship for this, and we get this via the hangar terminals. Here we can transport our ships in our possession to a hangar and leave the planet or moon. But another note, if you play the tutorial, you only have access to the tutorial ship during the tutorial. Your purchased ships or from the game package are available to you again after the tutorial. In the Fleet Manager, we see our ships and can have them delivered to the current location. And after they have been delivered, we can have them transported to a launch hangar, which is then displayed to us accordingly. So we have to go to hangar number 3. And you probably guessed it. Of course, we also go to the hangar via an elevator. And as soon as we have reached it, our ship is ready to take off for us. Depending on the ship, we have different access possibilities. Small fighters, for example, have a cockpit to climb directly into it. And larger ships, like our launch ship, have an interior area, which we can access via a ramp. So off to the pilot's seat and drive up the ship systems. Here too, the interaction mode with the holding of the F key and the mouse helps us again, whereby we see the functions via different buttons and switches which we can select. But of course, there is also a corresponding shortcut for all functions here, which you can assign yourself or use the standard variants. So we can use the standard key combination Alt-GR and R to make our ship flight ready and our systems go up completely. But in addition, we need a starting clearance, which we have to request manually at the landing control. Here we can, again in the interaction mode with the holding of the F key, as well as by zooming in or double-clicking directly of one of the MFDs over menus to the COM area via the menu of your screen. And here we find the spaceport, which we can either call on this way or via our MobiGlas. Via the F1 key, we get into the MobiGlas and have the COM link menu again in the lower left corner. Because here we can also record contact to the traffic control. We can find them in the COM link area and under Friends. And as soon as we have a starting clearance, the hangar gates also open. And of course, this also works for a landing. But if you want to use a shortcut, you press the Alt and N key. This also allows you to request a start or landing clearance. Also in your spaceship you can use an external view, so you have also the option of switching from the cockpit view to an external view via the press of the F4 key, like at your character. To give thrust upwards, press the spacebar. To give thrust downwards, press the control key. And with the movement keys on your keyboard, you can give thrust in the corresponding directions. That is, forward via the W key and to the side via the A and D keys, and brake or fly backwards with the S key. You can give control inputs with the mouse, whereby you see a small thread up to the middle here to better orient you. And also the speed setting with the mouse wheel, as when moving your character you can find here in the cockpit again. Because if we move the mouse wheel here, our speed limiter or speed limit changes. With this we can set our maximum speed. We have the safest flight characteristics if we do not go into the red area. And right at the border from the blue to the red area is the SCM mode, the Space Combat mode, which offers the best performance for our flight characteristics. And again, analogous to the character control, we can also sprint here, as far as our afterburner is concerned. If we press the shift key here, we see how the thrust displays decreases. That means our capacity to use the afterburner. And this capacity automatically recharges if we do not give afterburner thrust again. But we need another function regularly when starting and landing our ship, and that is the in and out of the landing gear. This is displayed as gear, and the flashing means that is currently active. And here too we have different options again, either driving in via one of the switches in the cockpit or via a shortcut, whereby we can simply press the N key here. And this we have laid the absolute foundations for the control of your spaceship or for the takeoff and landing process. But there are of course some other functions and possibilities that are related to the control of your ship. So we can roll our ship with the Q and E keys and align it accordingly to the horizon and on our landing platform. In addition, as soon as we are in an atmosphere, we have a corresponding degree display that shows us our ship is aligned. This ranges from 0 degrees horizontal to 90 degrees vertical. But also a height display, how high we are above zero, and we find a speed display in our head-up display. And in the right area, we find, among other things, our fuel displays. One's for hydrogen fuel, the fuel we need when transferring to the planet, and quantum fuel, which we use for jumps. Basically, we can leave our ship and our vehicle at any time and any place in Star Citizen, no matter what consequences that entails. Here we land, for example, on one of the skyscrapers in New Babbage. But we could also do this in the middle of the flight and leave our spaceship, which would then end in death. To land, we activate our landing gear again with the N key and push down with the control key. So we get down and the landing is complete. But let's finish the tutorial, because here we have to land on the space station above New Babbage, whereby we find a route away from the planet into orbit via different points. And there are no saving points or loading screens here either. All transitions are completely seamless. And so we reach the last checkpoint and are over 50,000 meters above zero, so already in the orbit of the planet. And in this distance we can use our second flight mode, our quantum drive. This is a jump, as we know from Star Trek or Star Wars. With this, we jump just below the speed of light from one point to the other, but we have to set a route. But if we have direct visual contact to our target, we can simply jump directly without having to set a corresponding route over our MobiGlas. To do this, we briefly press the B key, which activates our quantum drive, which first calibrates and spools. Here, however, we have to align ourselves with our target until the procedures are completed. And if we then hold the B key pressed, we jump. And if we hold the B key pressed during the jump, we cancel the jump. Also, with a new tap on the B key, we can deactivate or reactivate the quantum drive again. You can't go wrong here. We now jump to Port Tressler with the hold of the B key. For a quantum jump, however, we need a minimum distance, which is understated here, and we cannot jump further. And now we have to return to our hydrogen fuel and our normal engines. And targets that are too far away, like the Stanton Magnus jump point here, we cannot jump to because our fuel reserves are not sufficient here. So we would just stop in the middle of nowhere. As soon as you approach a planet, moon or station, it makes sense to send a scanner impulse with a short hold and release of the V key, which shows you the surroundings, even in complete darkness. so you always see what is in front of you or below you and don't crash into a station hidden in the dark side of a planet. And here too, you can meet other players at any times, who are also in their way with their larger or smaller ships. But we want to land, so we try to get a landing clearance again, either via our multifunctional displays and the comms, or via the shortcut version, Alt and N. Alternatively, we can also use our MobiGlas and the communication device here, call port Tesla and receive a clearance. And as soon as we have received this clearance, we not only get the optical display, but also the acoustic feedback that we now have a place to land. To do this, we align ourselves again accordingly and slowly approach our landing point. We should also activate our landing gear again with the N key, because otherwise we cannot land and only land with our chassis. But don't worry, if you try to land without the landing gear, you will get some damage, but your ship won't explode right away. And with this landing you have almost completed the tutorial. The hangar gates are closing and we are now leaving our ship to get to the last mission step again with a small elevator ride. To do this, we leave our pilot seat either by holding the Z or Y key or again via the interaction menu by looking to the side and clicking exit seat. And of course we leave again with an elevator to reach the hangars and hubs area. And as a conclusion, we can have our ship stored again at one of the ship's terminals. And with that you have completed the tutorial and receive a reward of 15,000 Alpha USC. To do this, just open your MobiGlas again with F1 for the tutorial conclusion and go to your journal. And now that you have finally arrived in the verse, we go to the different mission areas. You will find all the missions offered to you by pressing F1 and select a contract manager in your MobiGlas. Here you will find legal missions under the General tab. And as a basic tip, use the mission Call to Arms on the Mercenary, because if you hit bad guys on the way and turn them off, you will be paid for it. We start with delivery missions, are unlike risk-free, which you can find under delivery. Here you have the order for 3000 Alpha USC to pick up a package at point A and deliver it to point B. That's it. Make sure that your mission is actively selected so that you can see the corresponding markers in the verse. And with that, we can have our ship brought into a hangar and fly the mission. Our Aurora has two side entrances as well as a bed, a small interior and a cockpit area. And the starting procedure is the same for all ships. So we take a pilot seat and activate our ship with Alt GR and R or with a manual selection of Flight Ready. And with the shortcut Alt N or via your MobiGlas or MFD, you can get a start clearance and we can leave the station. And when you have activated the mission, you will also see your own marker where you have to fly. Here, however, it may be that we have to plan a route, but more on that later. And as soon as we have reached the pickup point, we just have to land and leave our ship again to receive the package. For the delivery missions, you will definitely need a ship with a cargo hold or even with a walkable interior so that you can simply place the package boxes. And another note, make sure that you wear a helmet before leaving your ship, because most moons do not have an atmosphere. And another tip, at the outpost you will usually find different loot boxes in the buildings. You can also access them and sell this material later. And in these loot boxes you will not only find everyday objects, but also armaments or weapons. And you can also access your local station inventory and thus store everything safely without having to take it with you directly. For our mission, however, we still have to collect the package. Here we go back to the interaction mode with the F key and click on Carry. Now we just have to store the package in our ship, pick it up and fly to the destination. And to store the package in our ship, we go back to the interaction mode. To get the delivery location, we leave the station and go to the orbit of the planet. And as soon as you are far enough away, we can jump to the next point. In addition, you get reputation for each completed mission with one of the different factions and thus unlock better and higher quality missions and with better payment. To hand over the delivery packages, we have different variants. Most of the time we hand them over directly in vending machines. But it is also possible that we have to put them in a special shelf. This is shown by the marker. And with that, we have completed our first delivery mission. 3000 Alpha USC earned and come to somewhat more lucrative missions. And for the next mission, we also check whether we have accepted the Call to Arms mission under the Mercenary tab, because that's how we basically get bonus payments if we kill bad guys. Now we hold the view after the illegal mission monitor is detected, also under the General tab under Mercenary. Here you will find in the mission description the name on which planet or moon this takes place, and you can see via the sky map via the F2 key whether this is near to you. And with this type of mission we do not have to go to a planet or moon, but stay in space. We again get a marker and jump to it. And as a reminder, if we tap to the B key you activate the quantum drive, and with the hold of the B key you activate the jump. As soon as we have completed the last jump, we are already in the mission area and use the scanner function again with the hold and release of the V key. We get closer to the satellite and at the same point we get scanner hits. And if we fly towards the hits, we get a red target. We can activate this either via the key 5 or if we look directly at it with the T key. This is our target switch. And with the key G, we can activate and deactivate the gimbal mode with our Aurora, which is represented as a dotted circle. And as soon as we have approached our target for about 1 kilometer, we have a square symbol, which turns green as soon as we switch it on with our cursor. Now we are in firing range, and then we press the left mouse button and activate our weapons and fire. And so we first weaken the target's shields, and as soon as it is switched off, the hull. And when we reach the hull hit point to 0, we switch off the target. But beware, we have a total of 3 satellites that we have to switch off. If they not do appear automatically, press the V key again and send a scanner impulse. And so we switch off the targets one after the other. And as soon as they appear, you can activate them with the 5 key or the T key. And after we've been here for just a few minutes, we get a pretty good reward of 20,000 Alpha USC. And that for 3 switched off satellites. But as soon as you have switched off them, you get a warning that is a protected area, so you still have 15 minutes. But you can also use this time to switch off criminal targets in the same area. These are quite weak beginners, and it is a perfect training for the beginning. And you get also paid for it. Activate red mark targets again as a target by looking directly at it and pressing the T key. Now you can switch off the shields again with your weapons and finally the target. And there are also 2 levels here, a soft dead, which we see here, and a hard dead. With the soft dead your target is switched off, but the hull is still largely intact, and we have the option of pulling out loot. And also in addition we can confiscate and sell various parts of the ship, weapons, cargo and more, but more on that later. At first we get the equipment of the opposing pilot and leave our ship for this. Here we can simply open our doors and glide out into the space. But again, make sure you wear a helmet, because otherwise you cannot breathe in the space. We will first focus on the equipment of the pilot. We can also loot this in the interaction mode. Here we can simply apply the equipment items that we do not wear ourselves with a double click. And with that we already have a good equipment for the next mission type. Because here we go into the ground battles. Again, under our mission tab, General, Mercenary, we take one of the ground missions. These start, for example, with a security contractor evaluation mission. With the activated mission, we get another approachable target and fly to a bunker. But it is not always bunkers, but it can also be caves or abandoned or ruined settlements where we find ground targets. And again as a reminder, with a hold and release of the V key, we can set scanner pics. Alternatively, we can also activate our ship's lights with the L key. And as a reminder, we have just collected a weapon and brought a pistol in the shop to start. Because we definitely need these here in the bunker. Because our mission goal is to eliminate 10 enemies. But here's another warning. Make sure that your target is really a bad guy and not a security force who can also be in the bunker. Because if you shoot a security, you get a crime stat. So you are a criminal and the mission fails and you may have to go to the in-game prison. But the in-game prison clasher is another huge topic and we provided a dedicated guide here in the channel. Also, the bunkers offer to collect equipment and combine the various weapons and armor parts. The FPS AI in Star Citizen vary depending on how the server performance is currently. From very difficult to absolutely unproblematic, depending on how the server performance looks at the moment. And in addition to various loot boxes, lootable enemies and the like, you can also find NPC characters, which you can also loot without any problems. So you can collect the security equipment for the various factions. And as soon as the mission is completed, you will receive 15,000 Alpha UEC and other missions, which also increases in difficulty and can offer a much better payment. But let's go to another possibility to earn your credits in the game, namely the Bounty Hunt. This starts again under the General tab and Bounty Hunter, with the Tracker Training Permit certification mission, whereby you have to trigger a target in space. And this is usually a beginner opponent, which should be easily doable. And in addition, you will also receive additional payment for each opponent you trigger here via the Call to Arms mission, which we had already accepted in advance. And as soon as we have our certification, we can work for the different residence zone security forces, so Hurston, New Babbage, Area 18 or Crusader. Here we find bounty hunter targets everywhere and can trigger them one by one. But these are not always directly in the reachable area such as here. To jump to a not jumpable position, I show you a little trick. If your target is not in a direct reachable zone, take a point on the opposite side of the planet or moon and start a quantum jump to this point. Here, hold your target in sight and simply cancel the quantum jump with a press of the U key straight away at the shortest point. This saves you a lot of distance and time. But even in this mission area, the opponents are increasing with each level, from very low-risk targets and beginner ships to several opponents at once with accordingly better ships. But don't worry, your beginner ship is definitely sufficient for the bounty hunt up to medium-risk targets. Although the bounty missions are already completed, as soon as you have shot down your target, you can still generate a lot more from such missions. Because as soon as we have destroyed a ship, we can take a closer look at the wreck and collect some useful and high-priced items here, which we can also turn into UEC. But here we have to turn off the target first and get them into a soft dead status. And in addition, you should make sure that there are no escort ships nearby, because of course they will also shoot at you. And after the job is done, we can land near the wreck and look around for something interesting. By the way, you can clean your helmet with the Alt and X key so that you can see what you are doing. And with the key 4, we can access our multi-tool or medical device, which we packed in at the beginning with our tractor beam. And as soon as we press the left mouse button here, we can use our tractor beam. Here we have, for example, one of the ship's weapons of our shoot-down opponent, which we want to take with us. In addition, it is possible to add suitable ship weapons directly to your own ship and thus increase your firepower. But not only weapons, but we can of course also loot the pilot again, and if the ship had cargo on board, we can also take the cargo with us. And we can also add these cargo with our tractor beam to our own cargo grid. Because as soon as we bring the cargo box to our cargo area, we hold the preview and can release the key. Thus the cargo is also brought in safely accordingly. We also have the option of loading the opposite pilot directly into our ship's inventory, so that we do not have to carry the items around. Here, however, it is important to transport the corpse after looting from your ship, because it is still a criminal, and you could get shot and get in trouble if it is in the ship. You can turn objects with the tractor beam by holding down the R key and then moving the mouse. And so we have not only collected the reward for our bounty hunt, but also new ship equipments, weapons and more. What we want to sell, of course. To do this, we go to the star map with the F2 key and can select the different planets with a double click. Here we can select the individual targets again with single clicks and generate a route via said route. But a warning, the star map is anything but unproblematic and can often be tricky. But what if you don't have time for a long journey and have to end the game for today? For this you can log out directly in your ship, and this is possible with any ship that has a bed. Just lie down in your bed and go into the interaction mode. Look up or to the side and you have the option for logout, so you can leave the game anywhere. And after logging in, you will come out exactly there again with all the items you had with you. So we can sell our items that we still have on the ship in the next round. Here, it can be offered to simply move items that you have in your ship's inventory into your local inventory on the planet or station. Here you can simply open the inventory with the I key and switch through the different inventory areas. And for sale items, keep an eye on the residence zones for the commons or the trading division. Every residence zone has its own trading district, depending on which planet you are on. Here you will find also countless shops, which sell the various items, such as ship weapons components or firearms. And at these shops who sell the items, you should not only have the opportunity to buy, but also to sell your own items. Like here, for example, firearms, or from our ship, the items that we have collected through the bounty hunt. So a nice additional income. But what happens when we die, explode or otherwise somehow die? Don't worry, in any case you will awaken again with your character in a medical facility, namely the facility where you were last located. You can store your consciousness, your imprint, in a medical facility and change it accordingly. The medical treatment is free here, but your ship and equipment are lost if you die. In your hospital room, however, you have an additional inventory, where you will find a standard spacesuit and standard helmet, which will at least provide you the basic equipment for the next trip. In addition, you can store your imprint, your consciousness, in any medical facility, be it on a space station or a planet, or even in a ship. In addition to the patient check-in, where you can have yourself treated, as well as the pharmacy, we will find these consoles, namely the insurance consoles. Here you can move your imprint to the appropriate place and see where we are currently located. We have now moved our imprint to this station. That is, if we die and the next time, we will wake up again here. And finally, take a more detailed look at your MobiGlas. We already know the most important areas, but we also take a look at all the others, like the Vehicle Loadout Manager. With this, you can adjust the ship that is located at your current location in terms of equipment, armaments and so. But in order to make an adjustment, you need the components to change, weapons or anything else you want to change directly also in this place. If you have several components here, you can choose which one to install. Via the next tab, Knickknacks, you have the option of viewing all your items, ships and so, namely on which planet, moon or which station they are located. But you have no further access to it, you can only see where something is located. In order to use these items, you have to go there first and collect them. The MoTrader is simple. It gives you the option of sending money to other players. And these do not have to be directly online or on the same server. You only need a complete handle of the player. However, fees are charged here, approximately 0.5% of the amount to be transferred. And there is no other way to transfer money to another player. We already know the Contract Manager. Here it is especially important to know at the beginning that under the General tab mostly legal missions can be found, and under the Personal tab illegal missions. And these illegal missions pose the danger that you will receive a crime stat. So you are a criminal and accordingly can no longer land anywhere. And you are pursued and end up in Clasher, the in-game prison. And about Clasher and the justice system, we have made a dedicated video for you, because this is a completely separate area and a huge topic. The vehicle maintenance service only works when you are on a ship, but you can repair your ship in a landing zone, refuel and ammunition. And this also works at outposts. And we also know the journal area. That shows you everything you have experienced in the verse so far. And finally, we take a look at the Delphi app. This shows you the relationships to the different factions and the different mission providers, such as the Bounty Hunters Guild. If you complete missions for a faction, your reputation will gain and receive more and better missions as well as an even better payment. But Star Citizen, of course, offers much more that we were able to cover in this beginner's guide. There are various industry gameplay areas such as mining, salvaging, trading and more, really offer a variety of possibilities to get involved into the verse. And for all these areas, you can find guides and help in almost all areas here on the channel. And of course, you are welcome to join us in the Discord. Here you can find fellow players and can ask any question. And of course, drop by on our almost daily Twitch live streams. We look forward to seeing you soon, and of course, see you in the verse.